pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody had a chance to look at the agenda?
There is one small change on the copy you have in front of you. I added a liquor license approval as item number 4 on the action items.
With that change, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I would move to approve the agenda.
Second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor approve by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approve the previous minutes from February 25th board meeting. Everybody had a chance to look at those?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a
Second.
second? Any more discussion? If not, of all those,
I would just share a point. We had a discussion on, I had all of the conditions of the conditional use permits listed on the minutes and went back and did some checking, and we've typically done that in the past, but not always, and usually it's only been 1 or 2 conditions. So I did modify that section to just read with the board approve the conditional use permit
with conditions.
with the conditions and findings of fact and conditions recommended by the planning commission, and address the 2 changes that you made on that. So I shortened that up significantly in the minutes.
Okay.
It was rather lengthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that helps with our publishing too.
Yeah. And we publish a summary anyway, so I would have cut it out of that anyway.
Yeah.
So,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public comment. There's no public comment. Consent agenda. Everybody had a chance to look through that. Is there anything that needs to be discussed or would like to pull out of there?
I think that we kind of discussed all those before we put them on the consent agenda as far as hires and personnel actions.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second? Is there-
Second?
I should say, is there a second? Sorry.
I don't know if John wants to add anything because all of it really, well, not all. Number 3 and number 4, do you need any clarification? It's a grant contract, is the one we do every year?
yes.
Okay, that's what I was just looking for. Okay, no other discussion?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Move on to action items. We'll start with John on the service agreement with Ability.
Ability Building Center.
Yep. Before you start, John, maybe you'd want to start now on giving us an update on the corona thing.
Will do.
Or would you rather wait, or it's up to you, but,
No, that's fine.
okay.
This morning, Heather, Myrie, and myself, we briefed the Public Health and Human Services Committee, Jack and Eric, on some information that we have with regard to coronavirus, COVID-19. And so I'll just give a few high points of that here. A couple of things that I want to highlight, and I highlighted this with our committee this morning as well. We're really fortunate here in Houston County, under Heather's leadership in our public health division, and also due to the great work of Audrey Stegemeyer, our public health educator, we really have a great source of factual and accurate information. I've been very grateful to both of them as we've kind of navigated this time. There is lots and lots of information about coronavirus, COVID-19 out there. We all, as citizens in our country, are just inundated with it right now. And so it begs the question, what is local public health's response? What is a reasonable response? And so we've wrestled with that over the last couple of weeks, and I highlighted some of our high points to the committee. First of all, a little bit about COVID-19. Coronavirus is a group of viruses. COVID-19 is the specific strain that we're dealing with right now. In many instances, you'll see information referring to COVID-19. That's what that is. From what we know today, COVID-19 is a flu-like virus. It has many of the same kinds of symptoms: upper respiratory, fever, flu-like symptoms, similar to the seasonal flu. It's unique in that it was a virus that apparently jumped from an animal population to a human population, which gives scientists reason for concern. It shows that it can change, and that always gives public health folks some concern to pay attention to that. And so, as you've seen in the news, it's something that's been closely monitored since it first became, since we first became aware of it in China. As far as our county's response so far, we've kind of taken a strategy of making sure that the information that we're putting out there is scientifically vetted and factual. Another real advantage we have in Minnesota is the Minnesota Department of Health. Minnesota's Department of Health is one of the best and seen as one of the best in the nation. They really are an exceptional source of information. And so what we have done from a strategic perspective in our local public health agency is we've relied on MDH for all of the data that we are presenting. Last week we put out a brief to the county board that was the most recent information that we had. The idea behind that was in case you had constituents who had questions, and you could refer them either to us in public health or to some trusted sources of information via the web or what have you. We also updated our website. So if you go to the Houston County website now, there's a banner that says Coronavirus COVID-19, and you can click on it. It'll bring you to the public health section of the website, and there's a button you can click there for coronavirus information. There's also a button lower below the beautiful picture of the river and the falls that has it as one of the items you can click on. We initially had information that cited the fact that there were no confirmed cases in Minnesota. We changed that yesterday. As I think all of you are aware, there are now 2 confirmed cases in Minnesota. We aren't going to be doing any of those kinds of numbers in our local information anymore because we anticipate they're going to change frequently. But the general information about what COVID-19 is and kind of the basic prevention methods that are commonly talked about and common knowledge as far as washing your hands, covering your cough, stay home if you're sick, be aware of people who may have immune compromise or have underlying health issues. They would be more susceptible to this strain of virus. Those things are posted in our website. We also reached out to local news outlets through the Argus and the Spring Grove Herald and the Houston County News, and have been in contact with them with public service announcements. I know Craig here interviewed Audrey last week, so we want to continue to have a flow of information between us and the public through the local press. Heather mentioned to me just yesterday that we're also staying in close contact with La Crosse County. We're in contact with other associated counties in our region. La Crosse is somewhat unique in that it's also connected to another state health agency, and so that gives us access to see what the state of Wisconsin's public health is doing. And also, all of the TV news, or lots of the news that our region gets, comes from La Crosse and probably gets some of that information. So we want to make sure that we're consistent with those kinds of things. That's really been our strategy. We also put out information to our staff about, we sent information to Jeff, who forwarded it to all county staff contacts about what our current information is, directing them toward, again, trusted sources of information. I'd again highlight there is ever-changing information out there, and there is definitely misinformation, and information being used for a variety of different purposes, both good and maybe not so good. So our stance is not to have opinions, it's to be able to have as good, scientifically vetted, factual information out there for citizens to be able to access. A little bit about our role. We've already had contact from people who operate group homes. Is the county responsible for closing group homes, closing businesses? We had contact from a school district as to whether the county's responsible for determining if a school district should close. To be clear, there is no statutory authority, there's no ordinance or anything in Houston County that gives Houston County Public Health, or Houston County at all, authority to close any of those organizations. They will have to make decisions based on facts that they see on the ground, and there may be differences between different communities based on how the disease is anticipated to spread. So we do not have any authority for that. We will refer them to information sources, to MDH, the CDC, things like that. We also have a role as it relates to staying in contact with the Department of Health and relying on their guidance for not just looking to them for information, but they will work with local counties to give us guidance if there's things that change. And right now there isn't any new guidance as to changes in any of our roles or things that we would need to do with Houston County residents or people in the region or any of that. But we stay in close contact there. So that's kind of a brief summary. I'd encourage you guys as commissioners, if you have any questions, if you have any constituents who have questions or concerns, please direct those to, you can send them to me. I will likely send them to Heather or Audrey. Heather and Audrey are really outstanding sources of information for us here in Houston County. Heather, do you want to add anything?
Do we have any test kits? That seems to be a lot of things on the news, or do they go to the medical centers and
The test
physicians?
kits has been something that has obviously received a fair degree of press. We talked a little bit about that at the committee today. We don't have test kits, and I would imagine that if they become available widespread and it was an option for us, we would think very carefully before we would wade into that pool.
Okay.
I think it would take both staff capacity plus staff expertise to make sure that they're using those test kits properly, and the liability related to that is, it would need to be considered and factored against the need. Sometimes you have to make decisions because the need gets big enough that balances things out. The way it is right now and the way we anticipate, I would suggest that we probably wouldn't get into the test kit business.
Okay.
What I found out this morning, that the state of Minnesota's health lab does have test kits. I would anticipate that healthcare providers will soon have test kits. Plus, I think the majority of people, if they have symptoms and they're concerned, their first call probably isn't public health. Their first call would be to their local provider. Anything else?
Sounds good.
I don't know, I feel as a citizen that the federal and the state and local authorities are on top of this.
Mm-hmm.
I like to urge calm with everybody, and just common sense practices wash your hands and just treat it like you would as if the flu, so.
That's an important message.
Yep.
That needs to be part of all the communication.
Yep, it's all about communication. Thanks, John.
You bet. Anything else, feel free to ask. And we will be doing our best to update information sources on the website, probably through the press and otherwise.
Okay, thank you.
Just a couple of quick points on COVID-19 I was going to cover later. Might as well hit them now. AMC is working closely with the state to provide us information. There's a webinar later in the week. I'll listen in on with that. The Commissioner of Health has established a COVID-19 advisory committee, and Julie Ring is going to be on that, as well as the LPHA representative there. And AMC also provided an update on some of the funding that's going along with it. And so the state has a bill going through right now, setting aside additional money into the state emergency account for response, and so continuing to push that information out as well.
Good.
Okay,
Sounds good.
now we'll move on to the ABC Woodland.
ABC Woodland, that's an agreement that we've had here in Houston County for some time. We have worked cooperatively with Woodland for a number of years. They provide community-based employment and center-based employment training services for people with disabilities in Houston County. The contract is an annual contract that you see regularly. It establishes what our rates are and kind of the outlines what that agreement is. There have been changes in this environment. And some of the funding sources that historically have funded this type of work, particularly through DEED, have changed. And I know last year we came to the board and needed the board to support Woodland's attempt to get an additional license to be able to provide some waivered services there. So it's an environment that's changing, and we've tried to be responsive to that. This is kind of separate from that. It establishes both rates and a ceiling for the amount of money that the county will provide specific county resources for these services. Do you have anything you want to add? Heather's involved in this in that as part of our public health division, excuse me, our home and community-based services case managers are real involved with the population that is receiving services through Woodland.
With that, I would make a motion to approve the service agreement with Ability Building Center Incorporated.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agreement approved.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Commissioners. You have a good day.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
update.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to reappointment of Commissioner Teresa Walter to Solid Waste Policy Board.
Yeah, I guess my term is up in April, and it has to be a letter from the board reappointing somebody from this board to that.
Okay.
So I'm willing to serve again, but unless somebody else really wants to learn all about solid waste.
I guess I'm really about the only one that can oppose it today, huh?
Or you could be the new solid waste person.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to reappoint Teresa to the Solid Waste Policy Board.
I'll second that. Any more discussion?
Jeff, will you send the letter?
Yes.
That's approved.
Yep.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
There hasn't been anything of an earth-shaking nature recently. I mean, it's pretty much been, they do a very good
They
job
do a
over
very
there.
good job, yes.
Okay, we'll move on to number 3, consider approval of the request of proposal for assistance with developing the comprehensive land use plan. This is something that we had a consensus agreement last meeting about. Seeing as how Bob isn't here, I was thinking we should probably table this, if that's okay with you guys.
Sure, that's okay with me. I personally will express my opinion. I think we have a very good committee, and I like the fact that Jeff is in charge of the organization of that committee. And I like the idea of sending out postcards to everybody and the idea of a district meeting
Mm-hmm.
for the public before we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion.
And I would add that I have talked with Teresa and Jeff about this, and I agree with Teresa.
Well, seeing as how Bob isn't here,
We'll
I feel we
table-
should have a full
We'll
board.
table further discussion, but
Yep.
I just
Yeah.
wanted you to know
Yep.
my opinion.
Consider approval of on-sale county liquor license for Ferndale Golf, which is under new ownership, I understand, so.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. You know
Opposed,
anything?
same sign.
Oh, sorry. You know anything about the new ownership?
Dar, from Dar Auctions,
Oh, the one that bought the Spring Grove, is that Dar Auctions?
bought Spring Grove.
Grover Road building, or?
No, that's a different,
That's a different.
I think that's different.
Oh.
I'm not totally positive about that, but no.
Hmm. Well,
So,
good.
So is it gonna be a private golf course or open to the public?
It's gonna be open at the,
Like it was before?
yep, yep. So. Okay, we'll move on to discussion items, administrator updates.
Okay. I added it to the committee this morning, but just I would add on the COVID-19, we are talking with staff and looking at staff responses and what any effects might be if it comes our way here in the offices and stuff too. So we're looking at that and more to follow as that develops.
I talked briefly with Ann this morning in Tessa's office, and she apparently got the last of the hand sanitizer from wherever she acquired it. It's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, indeed. A couple other updates. Thursday is when the 2020 census goes live. They will be sending out, the big new thing this year with the census is that they're going to, the primary way of completing the census is online. It's not the only way, but their primary goal is to get everybody to log in to complete it online. So they will start with broadcasting and making everyone aware that that's available starting Thursday. April 1st, of course, is Census Day, and that's the reference date for, where are you living on that date. But the census can be completed anytime from starting Thursday up until, I think, into midsummer. After the April date, in the first, I think there's going to be 2 rounds of letters and stuff mailed out. After that, then census takers will start working on contacting people that haven't responded. So, and then there are paper options and stuff as well. But so, census time is coming. And township elections today. Most of the townships, I think all townships.
All townships.
So, a reminder to go visit your local township, and
When is the township
Well,
dinner?
March, for the
annual
county.
dinner is March 31st.
That's the tentative date, was March 31st. I
Okay.
haven't heard of any changes yet.
Okay.
No, we've got it booked on 31st over in the EOC.
Okay,
Just a meeting, not a dinner.
right.
Yep. And we've got Brian and I will be meeting with Norman. He's coming through on Thursday to look at and make sure he understands the changes that we've proposed in the designs. And so.
What time is that?
I don't have, 10 o'clock, I think,
Thursday?
Thursday. Yeah. So
Would it be okay if,
you're welcome to join. You
Yeah.
don't need to be there per se, but if you wish to, you may. So we'll be going over that, and then hopefully next week at our workshop session, we'll have, be able to have a discussion about where we're going with the project, and hopefully queue up some decisions for the 24th. I don't know that we'll have all the paperwork back in time from Norm on the task 4 documents, but it'll be close. So at least enough to make some preliminary decisions and go forth, hopefully, with an RFP.
Yep.
And since we've tabled the motion on the land use plan, we'll probably use the work group session next week to discuss the details of that
Yep.
RFP.
Sounds good.
And I'm sure I'll think of something else in a minute, but that's what I have for now.
Teresa?
Well, I had a solid waste meeting this past week with La Crosse County and our Joint Powers Board. All the concern about that PFAS, you know, with the chemicals going into the water and et cetera, or coming from the landfill. They have found that Excel, if they burn it at 1800 degrees for 1 second, it will destroy it, the PFASs, the chemicals. But they already do 2000 degrees. So that's really, it takes care of most of it. There's always a few chemicals out there, man-made chemicals that are resistant, but they monitor it very close. We're trying to increase the hours at Excel. They close at 3 where the waste side closes at 4, so the trucks have no place to go at 3, so they're trying to get Excel to expand their hours because Excel wants more refuse so that they can burn more for waste to energy. So that's in the process. I talked to Aaron a little bit about replacing that person in that office, and right now they're getting a handle on what that person did from day to day before they move forward and hire somebody to take over. So, but it's in the process.
I understand the Polka drop site was closed.
I saw that email that
Yeah,
it was
it was-
closed because somebody got sick or had to leave at 11 or something. So,
Yeah, we were down to one person. As we come into the spring, summer months, he's looking at hiring some more folks to cover as the workload increases for spring cleaning. But we've been having trouble finding folks to fill those spots. And so, as Commissioner Walter said, we're still evaluating that open position and what the right fill of that is. We're looking at that combination of office work and the management that goes behind the program, and also the ability to have somebody that's flexible to cover those weekend shifts and cover those when there's gaps, and being able to float and do that. So finding that right combination of back office management and frontline work with that position.
Is there any discussion of consolidating or anything like that going on, or?
Consolidating the sites?
Yep.
Or consolidate, not specifically. We had a year back or so when we were looking at, what it would take to get a 5% budget cut in that area. That's one of those things that was looked at, but right now, no plans to close any of the sites.
we also talked about the egg bags in La Crosse County. We only have one company that does all the egg bags across the whole country, basically. There's no competition. But they, it's called Revolution Plastic. But they offer it free to farmers, to anybody with livestock or a need for these. And actually, La Crosse County has 100% participation. I don't know, we probably do too, but they only had the facts for La Crosse County because it is a free service. You fill it, the dumpster or whatever, and they pick it up, so.
And the one that is in our county, that's free too.
Yes, it's the
A
same
lot of guys
company,
had to
one
share
company.
dumpsters because they wanted them filled within a certain time frame.
Yes,
So like the smaller guys couldn't justify one, so they had to share with a neighbor or something.
right. It's all over. It's really
Yeah.
quite state spread and everything.
Well, a lot of guys
And
use.
they're trying to, by offering it free with the conditions that it's clean plastic, you're not gonna
Yeah,
find a dead
can't-
cap in there or something
or
like that.
dirt or manure or.
Yeah, and it's working because of that, so. So that was an interesting meeting. Then, of course, I went to the legislative conference and met with Jeremy Miller with the rest of you. at the extension meeting, we had a speaker on rural stress task force, where they're finding it's not just the farmers, it's also small businesses that have a lot of stress with trying to make it nowadays too. Anyway, they have a very good task force. I didn't think I forwarded it to you, did I, Eric? Probably, I tried to.
I have to look that.
On that stress force, what the lady talked about from the extension. Also, we talked about youth on the extension committee. In 24 counties across the state do have youth on it, and they do pay their youth per diem or mileage or both. So we need to bring that up at the extension meeting the next time too, and see if we can get more of the youth, high school students or people involved in extension with the idea that they could get reimbursed for it. Anyway, I'm gonna bring that up for that. I had a SEMCAC meeting last night. We had the department head from Senior Services talk about how busy they are, basically. They help all seniors with Medicare applications, they help them with mobile meals, the food sites and everything. They really do a lot, and of course their funding's always being cut. Anyway, they did have I thought was interesting, they do have another source of fundraising. SEMCAC also caters. So if you have they said the Blandon Association has their meetings once a month, and they have SEMCAC pay for catering it at a reduced rate, but it is a money maker for SEMCAC. I thought that was very interesting. They do all 11 counties. So if there's ever a need, it's
good
kind
to
of an
know.
interesting, I thought it was very interesting thing too. It's just a long drive to St. Charles. And I was gonna bring up about township meetings too. And then at our committee meeting, just a couple little things. The assessor's office has almost 100% of everything on Vanguard now. They're very close. They are getting all their values ready for the auditor's office, treasurer's office to do the tax statements. So that's on schedule. Brian, of course, has a problem with a road problem on County 3 that needs to be completely renovated because there was peat underneath it, which is soft, so the road is caving in and needs to be fixed. And so it's not in the budget, of course, but he's found areas where he could possibly move money. He was gonna kind of seal coat 24 and 19, both this year, but he's gonna cut back one of the roads for another year. And he asked if we wanted to make that decision, and I thought, he's the engineer. I said we would take your recommendation. So after the spring thaws now, he will make an assessment and inform us what roads they're gonna do. Also, road bans went on last Friday.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know if everybody knew that. That's basically the main things. There was a few other things from some of the other departments, but nothing that needs to go.
Okay.
So that should do my report.
Jack?
Well, I had an EDA meeting last Monday, and all current loans are up to date, which is good, and I think people need to know that we have, I think, 450,000 loanable dollars out there.
Available.
So if there are, young entrepreneurs or people that want to improve their business and hire some more people, they're encouraged to take advantage of what EDA can do for them. And there are some things planned, and I didn't bring the agenda, but she does a good job of publicizing what's going on and continues to do a job with a lot of enthusiasm, which is very good to see. Had a Hiawatha Valley Mental Health meeting. Some good news there was when they moved from their current site to their new site in April, the Centec gave them a grant of $3,500 to pay for the IT portion the move to hook up the new office and so forth, which was very appreciated. Nothing other than that of any great significance. Things are going well there. And as John mentioned at our meeting this morning, we do rely on those folks for a lot of the mental health services that the county gets involved in, so it's good to see them operating very efficiently. They'll have a grand opening in May of their new location here in Caledonia. And Jeff already mentioned the building, the county highway building, and where we're moving with that. I would like to give a hats off to our license center. I went there last Monday, and it was just a continual line, and I understand it was a record day for transactions, and
50,000? 50,000.
that is outstanding. I mean, and
We usually average around 20.
yeah. So the ladies were extremely busy and doing an outstanding job. And I think we had this issue back when there was more of a state mess. And I remember, people have to wait in line. Well, yes, you do. I left because I had another appointment, and later went to La Crescent. Well, there were 7 people in line in La Crescent, so it's just the way it is.
Yep.
If you staffed 2 or 3 more people, then on the other days you'd be twiddling thumbs. So, but again, appreciate what our staff does there. They do an outstanding job. That's all I've got.
Yeah, just to add on to what Jack said, that I know the auditor treasurer's branch there are very busy with the elections going on, and then with the day-to-day business, we have to give our hats off to them people for doing a good job. Their time is limited. I know Donna's been working weekends and
Nights.
nights too to keep up with her regular job with the election stuff, so just like to give her a shout of thanks for what she dedicated, and along with the rest of the employees.
Because most counties across the state only have 4 elections this year. We have 6.
Yep, the special one added on, yep. I worked at the primary on election for like 3 hours that day. It went fairly smooth.
I
in
thought
our-
it went very smooth too, once people understood that it took the place
There
of
was,
a caucus.
there was a little bit of grumbling about that, but, that was out of our hands. That was decided by the governor and the legislature back in 2016, so maybe they'll change
And
it.
that's the way most states do it instead of a caucus.
Yeah. Oh, it's just the fact they had to declare
They
their
had to
party.
declare their party was,
Yeah.
I know.
rubbed people the wrong
What
way.
you had to do if you went to a caucus, you had to
Yeah, I
go
mean,
to
you don't,
your
you
party.
don't go to the other
No.
caucus.
But anyway, it went smooth, and elections went well, and there was a little concern about a couple of things, but it all worked out and everything was smooth, so.
Good. I know our La Crescent Township was busy. I never did hear the final count, but we went right away and we were like 30.
Yeah, I think Houston Township was in the 60s maybe or something.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, because I wasn't there at the end.
I have the numbers on my desk if you want to see
Oh,
them. I
do
don't,
you?
I don't
Yeah.
have them handy here.
Yeah,
Somewhere between 21 and 22%.
Yeah,
Oh,
about
that's
22%
good.
turnout.
For that kind of election,
It was
yes.
on the front page
Oh, okay.
last week.
Hmm.
Maybe it's this week. It's on the front page.
Okay, sounds
Some
good.
week, yeah.
The numbers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
But I've got the full breakdown from the
okay.
canvassing board on my desk. If you want to look at them.
Then last Thursday I was at a water planning committee meeting at Caledonia at the Soil and Water Service there. Dave Walter expressed interest to come and visit us and do a update on the Crook Creek Watershed Project. And And I think we've got him slated for next
Slated for the 24th on our next meeting.
24th for the next meeting, so he'll give us an update on that. Better him than me, he's involved with that. It's been a long, slow process to get that. Hopefully, we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel to get this started, so.
Good.
And then there was just some, Dan talked about his projects coming up, the push-up pond and the clean-out pond projects, and that season's gonna start up here in the spring, and hopefully we'll have some decent weather to get some of that stuff done that they couldn't get done last year, so. Pretty much that was it. Yeah, I'm encouraged that we're moving forward on this county highway project, a highway shop project.
Good.
With Norm, and we'll discuss it further at the workshop and try to get some numbers on there and get a,
Did we apply for any of those city permits yet, or not?
that's in the works.
Yeah,
It's in the
That's in
works.
the works.
Yep.
We've combined the property parcels, and so I've got the permit, or the rezoning application on my desk. I'll send that over here this week to rezone the parcels as
Right.
agricultural is the use. The city, we negotiated, was the best option for us.
Okay.
And then, once we have a final design and such, then we will go back to the city for any variances that we need.
Okay.
Right now, we're looking at a small variance for one of the fence lines, perhaps, the
Okay.
back side of the property, a variance, and then
For the salt and sand
for the
shed.
salt and sand shed, and then possibly a height variance. There's a 35-foot limit. We're looking at being right in about 35 feet neighborhood, so we wouldn't be very much over that. So relatively small variances when the time comes, and after our discussion with the city, nothing that's too controversial.
And I think we'll be under that variance because we're looking at 30 feet, so,
Yeah.
on that one section of the mechanic shop, so.
Oh, good.
It's just a matter of how frilly of a roof line Jack designs in for us. He's all about making it look pretty.
Yeah,
The frills.
the frills. I would just mention too quickly, with some personal interest in this, but county-wise too, the flood prediction
Mhm.
for La Crosse, La Crescent is 10 feet, 2 inches by March 16th, which is just over the action, 10-foot action. And Eric mentioned this morning that it looks like the root has come up. but
Yeah,
I
it
haven't
was
heard
up
anything.
this morning, I noticed.
Yeah, so if we can just continue this streak of cold evenings and no
Slow
rain.
melt
I
and
know,
gradual.
that really has helped a
Yep.
lot.
Yeah,
Yep.
might dodge a bullet here,
Yep.
so anyway, that's all I
That's
got.
good.
So with that, I did think of 2 more things to add. March 19th, there's a couple things going on. Again, a reminder of the Veterans Bonanza over in La Crosse that our VSO is a big part of setting up. And then also on March 19th, we will be doing a staff internal exercise over at the EOC with Olivia, setting that up. And our focus has been on flood prep and response to that. And we may switch a little bit into the current trends of public health as well. So,
Okay,
Also, I think we have an applicant for extension, to be on the extension committee
Oh,
too.
yes, were we supposed to approve that today?
No, I
No.
don't think it got through
I haven't seen that yet.
I saw
know
the
we
application.
approved
application.
one last time,
Yeah.
and so,
So,
Okay,
which brings to mind, Eric, we're also looking for another member of EDA, and
oh, yeah. Yep.
so if anybody has a suggestion, and we'd like the, Holka,
Mhm.
or the,
That area?
that area, I think.
Hoka or Eitzen, I think would both be good areas to
Eitzen,
be
yeah,
represented.
yeah. So, keep that in mind if you think of anybody.
we went to the, breakfast at that new free range in Hoka.
Mhm.
It was very good, maybe one of those owners, there's 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I
Would be-
thought, did that come up that,
Ben has been approached, Ben
Oh,
Horn.
yeah,
okay.
but he was like,
Ben
wait,
Horn.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get this.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his
So.
hands in a lot of pies, so
Yeah.
he's, yep, busy guy.
Okay,
I also
Good-
like to.
It had good coffee, too.
Shameful.
It was called the Hoka Mocha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to just put a shout out that Stinson Meats in Houston is open for business now, so. And I think their over-the-counter meat business is up and going too,
Oh,
so.
good.
It's good to see that finally get going, so I think there'll be much needed business that we need for the farmers that wanna do direct marketing to people to sell meat
Right.
to, so.
Oh, good.
Good.
Yep.
The EDA, we discussed some changes in Caledonia businesses and such. The dealership has
Yes.
been sold and purchased. I think this summer that'll transition.
Yes,
And then there's
Is
been
that,
some-
you got an official word from somebody, or?
Yeah,
I'm
I was
blanking on
gonna
the
say
name of the
Skunk
place.
Hollow, but Sleepy
Sleepy
Hollow.
Hollow, yeah.
Bought it, but then the Eitzen Bank bought the
Redwood?
Redwood and is expanding or putting a new facility up, so,
Put a
yeah,
facility there, so.
kind of exciting for
Some changes in
Caledonia.
town here as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Anything, closing public comment? Doesn't look like it.
Do we need to sign some confidential reports or confidential
Oh, the
forms? N-
or, no,
I thought I saw.
Conflict of interest?
Conflict of
Conflict of
interest.
interest, I mean.
We, I did that online, right? Or is this something,
No, I think we have to go.
This is the annual
is that at Tessa's office?
ethics, and I can print it and we can take care of that after the meeting.
okay.
Okay.
Give you a copy to sign.
I think that's what she usually did, it brought
Yeah.
it to the board and we just signed it.
Yep.
I know every committee you're on has you sign them now. I have 2 meetings in Rochester on Thursday, EMS and workforce.
Okay.
Okay,
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everybody.
Wow.